Hey everyone, welcome back to Deep Dive Daily. We always like to get right into it, so today we're diving right into Canadian politics. Specifically, is Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister coming to an end?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's not just the typical stuff you hear from the opposition. We're hearing serious calls for Trudeau to step down, and it's coming from inside his own party, the Liberals. It's getting pretty loud.
All right, so let's frame this a little for today's deep dive.
Right.
We're looking at this recent article from the National Post, and there's this big bombshell that just dropped.
Yeah.
A special meeting has been called
Huge.
for the Liberal caucus,
Yeah.
January 8th, 2025.
Yeah.
And that begs the question, will Trudeau resign?
Well, and this meeting's happening after just a few weeks ago, Chrystia Freeland, a huge E-figure in Trudeau's cabinet and a potential successor, resigned.
No.
December 16th. And it was just like shockwaves
Well,
through Canadian
it
politics.
was a huge deal. I mean, Freeland's resignation, it wasn't just like, oh, she's leaving. It felt like there were deeper problems within the Liberal Party.
Yeah. It was a catalyst.
Right.
Like those quiet little whispers about Trudeau's leadership, they suddenly got way louder and more public. And I think what's really striking is that this pressure isn't just coming from the opposition. It's coming from the Liberals themselves.
Yeah. And that's what makes this so fascinating, right? This National Post article that we're looking at, it highlights how several regional Liberal caucuses have publicly called for Trudeau to resign.
Uh-huh.
This isn't just, a few individuals being like, I don't like Trudeau anymore. These are organized groups within his own party saying, we've lost confidence.
Exactly. That kind of pressure internally is super significant. It suggests a real loss of faith in his ability to lead, maybe even to survive.
So with all this going on, this special caucus meeting on January 8th, it's huge. I mean, this meeting could decide the fate of the Liberal Party, maybe even Canadian politics as a whole.
The timing is crucial, too. It's weeks after Freeland resigns, and it's right before Parliament is supposed to start again. So you've got this sense of urgency combined with everyone calling on Trudeau to resign. It's like, you can't ignore it. What's going to happen? Will Trudeau announce he's resigning? Will the Liberal caucus force him out? Could we be looking at a leadership race? Or even a snap election?
I mean, these are huge, huge questions.
Yeah.
And to add even more fuel to the fire, we've got some pretty bold statements coming out from some Liberal MPs. Ben Carr, MP from Winnipeg, recently and very publicly called for a change in leadership. He even said, and I quote, "It is time for change." I mean, that's a pretty big statement coming from a member of Trudeau's own party.
It is, yeah. And it just highlights how uneasy things are within the Liberal Party right now. I mean, when someone from your own team is publicly saying you need to step down, that's a sign that your leadership's being seriously questioned.
And in the middle of all of this, Trudeau himself has been very silent. He hasn't addressed any of this, these calls for his resignation, which obviously, just adds to the speculation, adds to the suspense.
I know. His silence is deafening. What's he thinking? What's his strategy? Is he just weighing his options, trying to figure out how much support he has left? Or, maybe he's just hoping this will all just blow over.
Well, one thing I ask for certain, Canadian politics are at a crossroads. Right. And the future of Justin Trudeau's leadership, well, it's hanging in the balance. The outcome of this caucus meeting will have a ripple effect, I think, across the entire country. I mean, it really does feel like a turning point, doesn't it? And, it's not just Trudeau's political future. It's like, what happens to Canada if he resigns?
Right. Well, if he does decide to step down, the most likely outcome is, a leadership race within the Liberal Party. And depending on how that all plays out, it could even trigger an early federal election.
Exactly. And a snap election, I mean, that would just throw so much uncertainty into the mix. Who would even replace Trudeau? Would the Liberals hold on to power? It's like Canadian voters would essentially be deciding on a new leader and the direction of the country at the same time.
And remember, we've already got a pretty fragmented political landscape in Canada. We've got a minority Liberal government. They need the NDP's support to get anything done. So any kind of leadership change, even just like a weaker Trudeau, it throws off that balance. It could have a huge impact on can the government even function?
So this is not just some internal Liberal Party thing. The stakes are high for all Canadians. But, okay, let's play devil's advocate here. What if Trudeau just says no? What if he doesn't resign? What happens then?
Well, it's possible he could try to just, ride out the storm, hope this all dies down. But even if he manages to stay in power, it's a victory. But, what's the cost? He'd be leading a party that's clearly divided. It would be a really tough road ahead for him.
Yeah. Every decision, every policy, everything would be under microscope.
Exactly. He could even face, open rebellion from his own party members.
Yeah.
Making it basically impossible to get anything done.
Yeah, and then what about, like, internationally? Would other world leaders still take him seriously if his own party is saying, we don't trust this guy?
It's a good point. Canada's reputation, it's tied to how strong the prime minister seems. A weak Trudeau, he might not be able to do as much for Canada, you know, on the world stage.
So we've got, okay, potential earthquake with a resignation, potential slog through a minefield if he stays. Is there any middle ground here? Any chance of a compromise?
There's always a third way in politics, right? It's possible that Trudeau and the Liberal caucus, they could work something out. Maybe he agrees to step down later, more of a planned transition. He could even use that time to, like, mentor someone, make the handover smoother.
Yeah, that would make sense. Give the Liberals time to regroup, get everyone back on the same page, avoid the, like, total chaos of a snap election.
Right. It would be balancing the need for, like, stability and continuity with the fact that change is going to happen.
Right. It wouldn't be the first time a prime minister, organized their own exit,
Yeah.
stepped down gracefully to let someone else take over.
Right.
But let's be real. This is all just like, what if? We're speculating. No one knows what's going to happen in that caucus meeting.
It's like we're watching a movie, but it's real life.
And you know what really stands out to me? Like, the public is hooked. This is not just some theory. It's real drama unfolding right now with real consequences for Canada.
Totally. Everyone's glued to the news, following every little update. It's like the whole country's holding its breath. I think it speaks to something deeper, too. Like, people want to know how power works, right? How decisions get made, how people handle all the crazy stuff in politics. It's like, even in a place like Canada, where it seems pretty stable, things can change fast.
And I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting for our listeners. It's not just numbers and facts. It's a story. And it's still being written.
It's history.
Exactly. And before we get into, like, what could happen, what all this could mean for Canada, let's just quickly recap. Trudeau's facing a ton of pressure to resign. People are calling for him to go, from inside A&D outside his party. Big meeting coming up. Lots of uncertainty.
Right. And it's crazy how quickly things change in politics. A few weeks ago, the Liberals seemed fine. Now it's like the prime minister's job is on the line.
All right, so we've got the context, the players, all the drama. But how does this story end? What are the possibilities here? What could actually happen after this caucus meeting?
Well, let's look at the options, right? Starting with what we've been calling Trudeau steps down. He goes into that meeting, announces his resignation, done, steps back, boom, instant political earthquake.
Okay, and then what? What happens after the earthquake?
Well, you'd see a leadership race for sure. Probably pretty heated. Lots of different factions within the Liberals, all trying to grab control, take the party in a new direction. And remember, the Liberals, they're already a minority government, right? They need the NDP.
So a change at the top could mean a snap election.
Oh, yeah. Canadians voting not just for a new Liberal leader, but for the whole future of the country.
It's a lot. High stakes for the Liberals, No guarantee they'd even win.
Exactly. They could lose everything. Especially with things so unpredictable right now.
All right, so that's one way it goes. Trudeau resigns, everything changes.
Yeah.
But what if he just says, nope, refuses to step down? What's the Trudeau holds-on scenario look like?
Well, he might get through that meeting, technically still the leader, but at what cost? He'd be in charge of a party that's totally broken up, everyone bad at each other. His power would be gone, basically.
Yeah, it'd be a rough ride. Every single thing he tries to do, people would be fighting him.
Exactly. People in his own party might rebel, make it impossible for him to get anything done.
And what about, like, on the world stage? Would other leaders even respect him anymore if his own party doesn't?
It's a huge EE question. Canada's image is tied to how strong our prime minister looks. If Trudeau looks weak, he can't do much for us internationally.
Okay, so one way's an earthquake, the other's a minefield. Any way out of this mess? Some kind of middle ground?
There's always the chance of a compromise, right? What we call compromise in transition. Like, imagine Trudeau and the Liberals make a deal. He stays on, BUT, only for a little while. Then a smooth handover to someone new.
Makes sense. Time for the party to calm down, get organized, avoid that election chaos.
Exactly. Balance, right. Stability, but also acknowledging that change has got to happen eventually.
Right. It's not like this would be the first time a prime minister stepped down on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Let someone else have a turn.
Nope, not at all.
But let's be real. We're just guessing here. We'll see what actually goes down in that meeting. Waiting with everyone else to see how this all plays out.
It's a political thriller in real life.
And what I find so fascinating is how into it everyone is. This isn't just some boring political stuff. It's real drama. real consequences for Canada.
I know. It shows how much people care about this stuff, right? This is about power, how decisions get made. And in a place like Canada, we think things are stable, but they can change so fast.
And that's why we do these deep dives. It's not just facts and figures, it's a story. And we're all watching it unfold together.
We're literally watching history happen.
Exactly. And before we wrap up, I just want to say, this isn't just about who's the Prime Minister. It's about Canada, our values, the future we're building.
That's so important. And you, listening right now, you're part of that. You've got the info now. What do you think? What do you want to see happen? Let us know in the comments.
Exactly. We want to hear your thoughts. And remember, this is far from over. We'll be back with more updates as things develop. So stay tuned.
Stay informed. Stay engaged.
And that's a wrap on another Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us. Hit that like button, subscribe to Deep Dive Daily for more like this, and smash that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We'll see you next time.